who's in there? You have 4 to 6 people living in each room in bunk beds. Now remember, this is an old hospital. So think of a hospital room. Now imagine a hospital room with 4 to 6 people in bunk beds. That's life for them. They don't have cell phones. They don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to their families. They work 110 hours per week. So essentially they leave for work at 7:30 in the morning. They get back at 10:30 at night. They go to sleep. They wake up. They do it again. They do that 7 days a week, 110 hours per week.
How long do they have to do that for?
For 1 billion years. They signed a 1 billion year contract. If I see a crime going down, I'm shutting that shit down. Crime is down with less cops.
What?
I have put a hurting on the Church of Scientology.
What's the deal with people being naked?
75 million years ago, there was overcrowding in another galaxy.
Wait, say that again?
They bring them here on religious visas, and then they take their visa away.
How is that legal?
They are stuck. What does that sound like?
Sounds like trafficking.
Yes, it sounds like human trafficking.
It needs to be taken over.
This is happening in our neighborhood. 2 blocks away, you have Hollywood High School.
People leave LA. I'm like, no, we need to save LA. Dude. We're going.
Let's go.
Mr. William Gude, Jamie Kennedy. We've never met before?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Are you a Hollywood? See, people talk about Hollywood, but they really don't know Hollywood.
Right.
And they really don't patrol the streets and understand what's going on, and you do. Are you from Hollywood?
No, I'm originally from New York.
New York, what part?
Different parts. I've lived in the Bronx, lived in Long Island, lived in Brooklyn.
And how long you been in Hollywood?
I have been in Hollywood since 2009.
And you live like a few blocks from me.
Not far.
And we're in Hollywood proper.
We're in Harlem, yeah.
And you've always lived here for the last 15, 16 years.
Since
Pull that a little closer there, William.
Yeah. I've been in Hollywood since 2009. I've been in LA since about 2001. So I lived in different areas from Long Beach to Brentwood to San Pedro.
But you're kind of like a neighborhood staple.
You think so?
I do, because I've heard about you. We have people that I know that you know. And then also I've seen some of your TikToks and your Instagrams. So you go around and I would like to say, is this right to say you keep people honest?
Yeah, I think listen, I keep them honest, but I don't like bullies. So I like to challenge bullies, whether it's individual bullies or institutional bullies.
So who's the biggest beef that you have? Is it Scientology?
No. Scientology is not even in my top 3 or 4. My biggest beef is, these days it's tough. I'd say Karen Bass is probably my number 1, the mayor of LA.
Okay.
I think she's a combination of corrupt and incompetent and aloof. So she's my number 1. Number 2, I would say the LAPD, trying to hold them accountable for their misconduct. Number 3 would be our local council person, Hugo Soto Martinez. And then I would say number 4 would be the Church of Scientology.
And what started all this for you?
Listen, I think my entire life, when I would see somebody just mistreated, whether it's a cashier at a store and somebody's talking horribly to them, I like to check people and make them be respectful, right? It's just a thing that I do. But it's sort of evolved over time. I started off maybe about 5 years ago. I heavily got into activism, starting with holding the LAPD accountable, and then it morphed into holding the politicians accountable, and then Church of Scientology picked a fight with me, so I told them I had to end their religion.
So wait, let's go slow. So what is your beef with Mayor Bass? Mayor
Bass has done a terrible job as mayor of L.A. She has, first off, right now, we have a $1 billion deficit. She inherited record general fund reserves. So we had record amounts of money stashed away. And here we are 18 months later, and we are in financial crisis. Because of that, we are going to have to defund our city. You walk around the streets over here?
All the time. I scoot.
Right. So you're going to see scoot. You're watching out for those potholes, aren't you?
All day, dude. You have a joke about it.
Man.
Where's the money go? Not to the potholes.
Listen, you know how many falls I've taken out here on the scooters?
Yeah. I
it's
try not to. I try. Yeah.
I've had it happen a number of times, but the streets are in bad shape.
The actual streets are in terrible shape.
Let me tell you, on the corner of Sunset and La Brea, it's a major intersection, right? The curb, on the side of the curb, has a palm tree growing out of the side of it. It takes some serious mismanagement for a palm tree to bust out the side of a curb. But it's not just there. I found another one on the corner of Sunset and Mansfield, right across the street from Hollywood High School. Palm trees are growing out of the curbs.
Bro, this is what I love about you. This is my hood, dude. I've lived here a long time. And Mindy, she lives here. Yeah. You live here. There's a lot of people that I always consider from Vine to La Cienega, my hood. Okay, but this is the area. So I scoot around, like by Roro's Chicken, that part of the street, there's a lot going on up there, as you know. But I do feel like they're giving out food and stuff at that church.
No, they do give out food at the church.
Okay.
So listen, there's a lot going on because when it comes to Karen Bass's mismanagement, it affects every aspect of our community. Not just the streets, because she cut street services by $20 million last budget.
20 million.
20 million.
Meaning just where's that money going?
It went to police salary increases.
That's good.
Well, let me ask you this, right? Right now, the police get about 50% of our discretionary budget. 50%. We gave them a $126 million increase, but we cut street services. We cut street lighting by about $5 million last year. We cut sanitation. It's a mess out there, isn't it?
Dirty.
It's awful.
Dirty.
And listen, if it's awful in places like Sunset, shouldn't Sunset be like the area that it's where tourists come to? They expect better. It's a mess out there. We cut sanitation by $20 million.
Okay.
We completely eliminated aging programs.
What does that mean, aging?
Yeah, food programs for
older people. Okay.
We gave the cops the increase in their salary. Now the average cop makes $132,000 after overtime. Now here's the thing, right?
A cops, dude.
What do they do?
Dude, for me, the cops are quick to hear, quick to it. Citizen app, they're always right there. There's a lot going on, bro.
What does Citizen app do?
The bird is always in the air.
Always in the air. And there's a reason for how many helicopters we have in the
that I do not know.
We have 18.
Okay.
City of LA has 4 million people. It's actually quite small. And we have a fixed-wing airplane, too. Why? I don't know.
18 for the whole...
No, not the county. No, the city.
Okay.
Of LA, right?
Okay.
Now, at any given time, we have multiple helicopters in the air, and they're really not doing anything. Now, you may hear things. You get a citizen alert app alert. That's usually just somebody calling in and saying, hey, listen, I see somebody suspicious. I'm doing this. 90% of those calls are false. 90% of those calls turn out to be nothing. But here's the thing. We have 1,000 less cops right now than we had 2 years ago.
Why?
Well, let me tell you this also. You know what crime is at right now compared to 4 years ago?
No.
It's way down.
Really?
Crime is at a 40-year low. Aside from Citizen app, I know we get these Citizen app alerts and we say, oh, wow, there's crime going on. 10 years ago, we didn't have Citizen app. No. We didn't have social media. So we didn't hear these things are going on. Now, these things are being amplified as being these major events that generally end up being nothing, right? But contrary to what popular opinion is,
a couple of T's were hitting each other the other night with bricks.
Listen, this is a rough area right here. For
them.
Okay. From here to Santa Monica down to Orange.
But it's still nice.
No, it's part of the grid of the area.
Yes.
Too. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. I walk all the time. I scoot everywhere.
Are you worried?
No.
Exactly. I think people, and that's the thing, right? Getting back to the crime. Crime is at a 40-year low.
How? You don't hear this.
Exactly. We don't hear this. I was just in the police commission meeting yesterday. The police chief said crime is down substantially year over year, and I've been hearing this at police commission meetings for the last 4 years. Crime spiked during COVID. It absolutely did. During COVID, we have a bunch of people getting EDD money, right, from all over the country. They had nothing to do. They flew into LA because they go to Airbnbs, right? And they would come out here and party. It was a bunch of 18 to 21, 22-year-olds with thousands of dollars of pockets and nothing to do, and crime spiked. There was just drama. But, again, right now we are at below pre-COVID levels, and we're at 40-year lows in crime. The murder rate back in the 80s in LA was 3 times what it is now. Now, people will say, well, are people not, calling in crimes because they feel like nobody's going to come? You said you get good responses. A lot of people say, no, crime is underreported because they don't feel like the cops are going to respond. My thing is, I don't think anybody's not reporting murders. I don't think we have an excess of bodies laying around in the streets that are being unreported. So yeah, contrary to popular opinion, we have less cops and crime is down. So why are we giving them larger and larger percentages of our budget? We're defunding our city. And at the same time, and listen, what does it take to be a cop in LAPD? What are the requirements? 20/40 vision and a GED. That's it. And then you get 5 months of training.
Well, you got to pass the test, bro.
What test? The 5 months of training. How easy the test is for the LAPD? It's the lowest test in the nation. I come from New York. We have the NYPD. They're required to have associate's degrees. That way, for one, you can get a basic understanding of, say, the Constitution and the laws and stuff while you're getting, but you also are exposed to other people, right? These kids come out here as cops and they're playing video games. And that's the way they see it. And they get away with a lot. 4% of public complaints against the officers are sustained. Now, I've had cops in the LAPD right here in Hollywood come up to me just weeks ago. I was in Body Energy Club. First thing, cop comes walking up to me. He says, "You were right. They are fucking racist."
Who's racist?
This is a cop calling the Hollywood LAPD racist. This is a Hollywood cop calling the Hollywood LAPD
He
racist.
said this to you on the record?
To me, on my face. I have my phones in my hand because normally, they know I record everything.
Yeah.
I have my phones and he didn't even care. And he told me about the stories about how he and his partner have been left the Hollywood station and they were driving cars like Challengers and stuff, which are cars they get pulled over. And when they entered the HED, the Hollywood Entertainment District,
yeah,
they were pulled over. And they were even told to step out of the car, and they're trying to explain to their cops. So if they're being targeted in that way for no violation whatsoever, what do you think was going on out here? And you had that sort of misconduct that's going on. So when you asked, why are we having a hard time? Why are the numbers down? They can't recruit. They're having a hard time getting people to join the LAPD because the LAPD has a bad reputation. 15 years ago, they had a 71% approval rating. Now they have a 30% approval rating. Imagine if you ran for an election and you got 30%. That'd be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Bass has a 37% approval rating. She has no chance of getting reelected. She is terrible at her job.
You like Caruso?
Listen, there are things that I do like. Initially, I didn't vote for either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I like about Caruso in the sense that I was worried that Caruso was going to defund our city by giving the cops way too much money. Karen Bass already gave it to him. She gave the labor contract that she gave them broke the city's back.
But the fact that crime's down is great.
Has nothing to do with the labor contract. Again, crime is down with less cops. Here's another thing. When I started cop watching on Hollywood Boulevard, the HED unit, the Hollywood Entertainment Detail, had 71 police officers. Within 18 months, I got that knocked down to 23 police officers. You know what happened during that time? Crime decreased. You know why? And here's my theory on why, right? When you go out to Hollywood Boulevard at night on a Friday night and you see 5 police stops happening all at once, lights flashing everywhere, if you're a tourist, you say, this place is fucked up. There's crime everywhere. Mm-hmm. What I see is that person got pulled over for a California roll and they're handcuffed now. That person, that lady wearing that dress over there, she got pulled over for not using a turn signal and now she's handcuffed. Mm-hmm. And so there's a perception that there's so much crime going on there. It's not real crime. When they stopped making those stops, you know what we started seeing? More tourists come and families come to Hollywood Boulevard. And the lowriders start showing up, which is a family thing too. Mm-hmm. So what happens is when you have over-policing, and it's a thing, it can create a perception that the area is crime-riddled, and you have people who are like good citizens. They don't want to go there because that's crime-riddled, and you're left with nothing but the criminal element, who is normally below the surface and not so, in plain sight.
So wait, you're saying so much. I'm trying to focus in. I feel that the whole neighborhood is changing, and I see it from Netflix on up. Dare I say the word gentrified?
Listen.
But it is all on Santa Monica, Sycamore down, It's all becoming nicer. The last thing to get it are the streets. The streets are still fucked up. But everything else, the buildings look nicer. I see, here's how I know, bro. I see women jogging at twilight.
Let's put it like
and
this.
That's rare.
Before I moved to Hollywood, when I was living back in Long Beach, I used to come up to the Hollywood Farmers Market on the weekends, on Sunday.
LBC would be scarier than LA or no? I feel like it gets that rep, but I like LBC.
No, LBC is chill.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
And I was from down by like the Belmont Shore area, so there's nothing going on over there.
Okay.
A bunch of surfers walking around. But I used to visit the Hollywood Farmers Market on a Sunday afternoon and park over there by, say, Wilcox and Selma.
The one by like Cosmo Street.
Yes.
Okay.
To park on some of those side streets, even during the daytime on a Sunday, it was kind of sketchy. It was like, is somebody going to smash my window to take some change out of the thing? Now, you know who's riding up and down those streets on a Friday or Saturday night? That's full of like Rolls Royces and Bentleys because of the hotels.
Because of the Dream, the Thompson.
Because of the Dream. That area completely changed. Right now, people may say, but you know, it lost some of its soul. This is Hollywood, and it's a block away from Hollywood Boulevard. There should be plenty of building over there. Hollywood Boulevard's in a bad state. It's a mess. We all know it needs major investment. And the only way you can get investment on there is you have to build out the surrounding areas. Now, what we have seen, though, that troubles me a little bit, it's a good thing, just not for us, is since they've been building out areas, think of Sunset down by like, what would be like El Centro, how they're building up all those apartment buildings. How you remember where Chick-fil-A is over there on Vine? And remember what that building used to look like when it was abandoned a couple decades ago?
Chick-fil-A's on Highland.
I'm sorry, not Chick-fil-A. What is it called? Chipotle.
Chipotle, yes. Now they have that beautiful, like, looks like a Transformer building.
And they're going to add on to that. So they're knocking down the buildings next to it and they're adding on and stuff. That used to be an abandoned building. So they've been building there. They built over by Trader Joe's. They built out by Vine. I remember when there was Joe Rogan doing Fear Factor at some of those parking lots over there where are now buildings. And it's pushed in our direction. Now, with that comes, listen, there are a lot of homeless people are being pushed in our direction too. And I'm not going to say crime, but there's drug usage has been pushed over here because they can only go but so far. Once they get to West Hollywood ships them over here. So anybody who's a homeless person in West Hollywood is put in the back of a sheriff's department car and brought over by 7-Eleven at Sunset and La Brea and dropped off over there.
Wait, say that again?
Yeah. They will ship off people who are homeless, mental illness, or dealing with narcotics.
WeHo,
LASD.
So from like La Cienega or like between La Cienega and San Vicente, like right that area?
Listen, anywhere from La Brea all the way to the end of WeHo to like Doheny.
And they'll take them and ship them down by Vine?
No, to like Sunset and La Brea.
They'll put them in a cop car?
Yes.
And drop them off?
I filmed them doing it.
What?
I filmed them doing it. Wow. They pull them out and they drop them. It was like Rambo. Remember they did something like that in Rambo the movie? They drop them off at the edge of town, which is illegal, right? But they burden us with it, right? Then now it becomes a city of LA issue. And that's not right. I take offense. And here's another thing. Like City of West Hollywood, they sort of pad their stats. They mostly do police stops in the LA proper. They come over to Hollywood itself, do a lot of police stops, and build up their numbers that way to justify their budget because WeHo is contracting from the LASD. They're paying $300,000 for each individual officer they have on the street. And to justify their manpower, the number of cops they have to make stops, look for warrants, but they come over to LA proper to do that. Because in WeHo, there's not much crime. What are you going to have? You're going to have drunk drivers or some drunk people at the club, maybe some domestic violence. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most, from Doheny to La Cienega on Santa Monica is the latest part of town that's open. Like, everything else is closed. And it goes late. But I know that police force is very respected, and they do not mess around.
They're chill. Listen, that's a good duty to have.
They're a good group.
If you want to work in the sheriff's department, you want to go work in East LA or do you want to go work in West Hollywood?
I know. Well,
that's easy time. You know what you're not going to do? You're not going to have to worry about getting killed. You're not.
Yeah.
You know you're going to come home to your family.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, it's just, WeHo's nice.
So you go around, what is your problem with the LAPD?
Misconduct.
And what's something you filmed?
A few blocks away from here.
And you filmed them just doing what?
Oh, I've caught them doing, let's talk about your neighborhood, just a couple blocks away from here. Think of Highland and DeLongpre.
Mm-hmm.
Filmed the stop over there where they didn't know I was there. They had a woman pulled out of the car. Said she could not drive her car because she had a suspended license.
Mm-hmm.
She was parked there. They had her parked legally and said she's going to have somebody come pick up her car. Then they started having weird conversations, and I stepped in, and they still didn't know I was there. But I stepped into the light a little bit more right there. And when the officer saw me there, he ordered the woman into her car and then told her to drive down past Fountain, down past Lexington, go to Santa Monica, make a right-hand turn, go past Citrus, go past Mansfield. Got to Orange where Shakey's was. There was a construction site there at the time. Remember when they were building that building?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a trailer out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was weird, and there was another guy that was there with me. We thought this was odd. She has a suspended license. Why are you putting her back in operation of the vehicle? It's a woman. And then on top of it, she was in a parking spot. She could, if you wanted her to go somewhere else, why didn't you just let her keep the car there? That car she didn't have to move. It was a Friday night. She did not have to move her car until Monday morning for street sweeping. She could have parked it right there. But why are you putting her back in operation of the vehicle? I got on a scooter trying to find them. I'm riding around. I just gave up until I got over there by Shakey's. This is during COVID, and it was dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I found them, lights off, both of them, behind a trailer. Do you feel good about that situation?
Doing what?
I got there quickly.
Doing what?
I got there quickly. It was dark. That's our neighborhood. So when I would go over to Starbucks on Sunset La Brea, it's a place I love going to, right? And I know all the workers in there. And I told them, you come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning. How do you feel about it? What would you do if a cop pulled you over and tried to take you to a second location? How would you feel about that? And they'd be like, I'm scared to death about it.
Oh, man.
Do you want that happening in your neighborhood? Is there a problem with that? Yeah. Or here's another situation. What else have I had? Over here in Cahuenga and Selma. Guy was arrested and they had him handcuffed and his legs bound. The cop walked over and stepped on his face.
You have that on film?
On video from 2 different angles.
Oh, my God.
So I sent it to LAPD. Chief Moore at the time says, well, what we see is, he said this in the press, he said this to the news media, that what you see on video is clear. It is clear. He stepped on the man's face. So I filed complaints against him. I also asked for charges to be filed because that's a battery. LAPD did an investigation and they said that there was no misconduct because he did not make contact with the man's face. It's clear as day. You can see the guy's head shake. You see his skin stretch. The chief admitted it. And then they said he didn't complain about it, but on video you can hear him complaining about having his face stepped on. That's the sort of cover-up that I deal with on a regular basis. I deal with this guy, he's a police union director. Mm-hmm. Filed a complaint against him because he owns a private security company. He owns it with a cop who was fired, who has a felony conviction, which is against LAPD policy. You're not allowed to have business interests with a felon, but he had a felony conviction. He owns a company, does private investigative work, which is against LAPD policy too. You're not allowed to do private investigative work. Filed a complaint on him. It was sustained. I had some lawyers reach out to me, and they said his private security company had a security guard that was unlicensed and my client. And they admitted it. And they fired him. They fired him for it. They should, right? It's the least you can do is fire him. Mm-hmm. But then they come to find out, look at the final financials, that they actually brought this back to fulfill their PPP money. So they can get an extra $7,000 in PPP money. They actually put him back on, even though he wasn't even licensed to be a security guard. And this is a guy he is both a director of the police union, but he's also the treasurer of the police union. And so I started looking into the police union's financials. And the number one contractor for the LAPPL, the police union, is his security company. he was dealing himself hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts from the police union, and then didn't disclose this to the members, the police union. I'm getting text messages a few weeks ago from cops in the police union. There's like, we're at a delegate meeting and he's denying that he self-deals these contracts. I said, listen, you can go look at it on their financials. They're public information. I sent it to him. I said, here, it shows the contract. They're just lying to him like that. These are the people who are running the LAPD, right?
Was he convicted?
No, he's out. He's a director right now.
What, he was up for?
Oh, the guy who committed the rape. I don't know what happened. I don't know about that. I talked to the lawyer who had done a deposition on Ralph Campos.
Okay, and then the other guy was dealing himself, paying his company back.
Listen, it's more than that. It goes so far beyond that. I mean, I've seen situations where you have a guy on a SWAT team. Actually, that same guy, his other business partner in a company called 911 Entertainment, the guy he deals with there, he's a SWAT team member, current SWAT team member. Is actually.
It's good to talk about these guys.
Well, he's an ex-Rampart cop.
Okay.
And back in like 1999 or 2000, he and his partner, they picked up a kid who was like 15 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Took him out of an apartment, handcuffed him, brought him in a car, took him to another gang area, dropped him off, got on the speakers, announced that the kid was there. The kid was shot within a minute. They were the first officers to arrive back on scene, but then didn't tell investigators about any of that for 5 years. Did not tell investigators that they had brought him there. They said they had no interactions with him. But then they came to him and said, okay, listen, we are going to give you compelled testimony, which means whatever you say can't be used against you in court. And they admitted, yes, we did drop him off there. We did this. The DA said you should have been, at a minimum, charged with obstruction of justice and lying to investigators. But because of the compelled testimony, we can't use it against you in court. So they left him on the force still. He's still on the force. He's in D team, which is the highest ranking of the SWAT team. Is that right? Is that somebody we should have on the force?
No.
We can talk about Raphael. I mean, I can go on and on with some of this stuff. Now, here's what I will say. I go after these cops hard and hold them accountable. You know what the cops come to me all the time and say? All the time. And I'm talking about high ranking. I'm talking about sources who are commanders, who come to me and thank me for what I've done, because I have stood up for more officers than the union has.
So you're saying you're going after bad cops.
Yes.
But there's a lot of good cops that you defended.
Listen,
like how you're saying the most intense stuff, and
I will say
you
30.
Witnessed it. So my question is, how does no one fuck with you, or do they?
Well, listen. Here's what I'll say. First off, I would say 35% of cops are on my side.
Okay.
They agree with everything I'm saying, that it needs to be reined in, all the misconduct. And listen, they're allowed to do just about anything right now. As far as fucking with me, they've arrested me 7 times in the last 4 years.
How long did you spend in the county?
I never made it to the county.
So you gotten out at the same night.
So what would happen is, like,
they don't. But how do they not bump you on the street? Say like, "What's up?" You know what I mean? Like, or harass you.
Those days are over. The harassment, for the most part. So back in 2020, 2021, 2022, I was dealing with harassment nonstop. I'd write up some cops, file some complaints on them, and the next thing you know, I'm getting arrested. You know, listen, here's one time. Right behind Chick-fil-A on
Highland.
But on McCadden. Think about right by.
I know exactly.
That's rough, right? That's
right.
Rough.
It is. The Rite Aid went out of business.
Right.
They put all the homeless are there. It's across from the Pottery Place, which used to be the makeup school. That whole area is twisted, but it's ripe to be bought and changed.
I think they're in a process. Actually, I know.
And Kevin Hart's chicken place went out of business in 2 minutes. I was like, why?
That whole block right there is actually about to be developed.
Okay, that's good.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about the whole block, I'm talking about those storefronts on Highland, the barbershop and all that.
Yeah.
Come on. It's time,
it's
right?
time.
It's time.
Yeah.
There's a certain look to it.
But the Chick-fil-A is the only thing. The rest of it is all, the Rite Aid's out of business.
Yeah,
But the Javista is now kind of starting a nice thing, that coffee spot.
Kind of, but listen, they're dealing with some headwinds. It's rough right there, you know?
But I still scoot around it.
Yeah. Well, I was over there on McCadden one day. I was actually getting ready to get on a scooter. I was going to go to Body Energy Club and get a smoothie. And I heard somebody throwing bottles, smashing and stuff. And there was a guy, he was throwing bottles at cars and people and furniture. He's throwing pieces of furniture. And so I went over there and I told him to stop it. I said, knock that off. And he's like, I'm homeless. And I said, I don't care if you're homeless. Nobody's going to feel bad for you if you're doing this stuff. And so he walked back to his tent. So I start clearing the stuff out of the street. He comes back with a pole and a knife. And I'm thinking, like, this isn't worth it. Let me get the fuck out of here. So I got on my scooter and I left. I went to the Body Energy Club, did my thing, went back home. Then I started walking to my house to go to my car for something, and I hear sirens and stuff. And I get on a scooter and I follow them over, and they're right there on Leland Way and McCadden. And they have that guy in handcuffs. Somebody called the police. A lady called the police, said that he was threatening her and others with a pole and a knife. So I get over there and I start filming the interaction. The guy who's in handcuffs said, that guy over there threatened to burn down my tent. Talking about me.
You.
Talking about me.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Thank you.
Wow.
So you know what they did?
What?
These are cops I had written 5 complaints against them.
Well, I know what happened to you.
They took the handcuffs off of him.
And put them right on you.
And gave him his knife back and his pole.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
You know, it would be bad enough to
They
arrest
tie
me.
you or cuff you.
Now they cuff me.
Oh, shit.
But then
oh, shit. They gave him the pole and the knife?
They gave him his shit back.
Why?
You tell me, because just to add insult to injury.
Oh, my God.
And so they arrested me on criminal threats. They gave me a $50,000 bail. So you're talking about no good deed. And so my thing is, listen, that was all rejected, but the DA and the city attorney
How
all
much
rejected.
it cost you?
Activists stepped in and took care of everything for me. So I had my bail. I was bailed out in 4 hours. You know, I just had a group of people. I walked.
That's
outside.
$5,000.
Yeah, I walked outside. They bailed me out, and there was like 30, 40 people out there giving the cops hell, and the charges were rejected all the way around. The DA said there's no evidence. Chief Moore went on the news the next day because the LA Times was making a big deal about it. Chief Moore went on there and admitted that the guy was dealing with a mental health crisis. He was in crisis. A
lot of them.
And so they took his word over mine.
Mm-hmm.
And what pissed me off is, listen, I'm all about protecting my community. I have beef with the cops, but I have beef with anybody who does wrong in my community. If I see a crime going down, I'm shutting that shit down. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's just all the way around. I feel like I can protect my community better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And it's our community because we're neighbors, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But after that, I seen a guy, it was like 2 days later, I'm walking on the street, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning where Broadway Shoes was. And right there on Sunset across from Hollywood High School, that big warehouse, now it's a Toyota dealership.
Yeah, why are they doing that?
Listen, they closed down Broadway Shoes. It doesn't work.
But you're going to buy a Toyota there? You can just buy it online.
Yeah, but remember, they used to have their dealership up on Hollywood across from the Salvation Army.
Yeah, they made it nice.
But why did they want to leave there? Because it was across the street from the Salvation Army. Because they were dealing with encampments constantly in front of there. Mm-hmm. So they moved to an area where, and listen, are people going to want to stop in and get in a car right when they're trying to get on the freeway? Right? Because that's kind of like right there where in Sunset, it's Sunset. Mm-hmm. But I saw a guy smashing the lights. They had overhead lights, and he was smashing lights. And normally I'm going to go over there and tell him, knock that shit off if I catch you doing that again. But I couldn't. Because who knows if I'm going to be charged with another crime for stopping him from committing crime. And that's a frustration. So that's one incident. I've been arrested time and time again.
Where are we at with the homeless?
So Karen Bass says homelessness is down 10%, and that's a lie. Karen Bass came into office, and then it spiked up, and then it came down 10%. So homelessness is higher now than it was under Karen Bass. Karen Bass has a homelessness program called Inside Safe. And that program is they put homeless people into hotels, and it costs us $17,000 per month for one person.
Taxpayers.
So
money that could be going to the potholes.
Money that could be going to lots of different.
$17,000. People's rents aren't even.
Let me explain it to you. So what they do is they pay a hotel rate of about $125 per night for each person.
Okay, that's 40. That's like $4,000.
It's $4,000. And then they have nonprofits that administer the program. Who?
Scum.
Thank you.
scum. Hate a nonprofit. Bullshit.
Nonprofit industrial complex is a real thing.
Bullshit artist.
If you ever want to become rich, start yourself a homelessness nonprofit consulting company. You will get filthy rich. And so they administer this program and they give them $100 gift cards per week for food, right? Mm-hmm. And then where does the other $13,500 go? Mm-hmm. It goes into their pocket. Mm-hmm. And each one of these nonprofits are connected to individual council members. Every council member has their own nonprofit that they're associated with. And once they're done being council members, they will walk into this huge amount of money at this nest egg, and they will be given, some sort of position there, an honorary position at $250,000 a year. Who knows?
So the nonprofits, are bullshit. And they go and where do they get their money? Donors?
Listen, sometimes they do. Yeah, sometimes they're getting it from donors, but the real money is getting it through the city and through the county. Get those contracts. You get those city contracts. Listen, I know for a fact, I guess I can tell this information. I know a council member, an ex-council member, who his best friend received a large fine, $200,000. And this council person got this guy a contract, but the contract basically said he didn't have to do anything. So basically it was a contract from the city to pay off this guy's large fine, and we're paying for that.
So, dude, these nonprofits are bullshit artists. They consult. And so they give them a gift card for money. Yeah, they keep the rest.
Yeah. And there are no checks and balances. There's not like some sort of metric that they have to meet to ensure they get their next round. Listen, this Inside Safe program we have spent $367 million on, and it has permanently housed 905 people. $367 million permanently housed 905 people.
Okay, so Inside Safe, that's the program. And the rest of the money you're saying goes in people's pockets.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one of the Inside Safe locations is right next to the Starbucks on Sunset La Brea. The old hotel right there. If you notice now, it looks a little different. Another one is on Las Palmas. In Pretty Woman, that final scene when Julia Roberts is hanging out the window or whatnot?
Las Palmas and what?
Las Palmas, right next to the soccer field south of Yucca. So north of Hollywood Boulevard, about a half block on the right-hand side.
Okay, I know exactly where it is.
And it's called the Hotel Las Palmas.
Mm-hmm. That's a homeless place?
Well, first off, it is zoned as rent control. It's a rent-controlled apartment building.
Okay.
But they illegally converted it to a hotel. Illegally. So it should be renting for $1,300 a month, and it's long-term housing. But instead, we've turned it into an illegal hotel. It now says Las Palmas Hotel. And then the city is renting those hotel rooms from them for $4,000 a month. So instead of using it as rent-controlled housing and making $1,200-1,300 a month, they're now renting it back to the city for $4,000 a month. That's a scam.
Yeah, so they're doing their own scam.
That's happening all over the city. All over the city.
So you're saying council members are involved. Everyone's dipping.
Yeah, listen, Karen Bass is absolutely terrible, and all these council members are terrible too. I don't have any. Listen,
where did Karen come from?
Karen was in. That's the thing. Karen was in Congress for 20 years, right?
L.A. Congress?
No, D.C.
How did she come out here?
No, she's always been here. That's the funny thing. Like, you were wondering where has she been, right?
Yeah, because
she doesn't know L.A. She doesn't seem like L.A. because she's been in Washington working for 20 years. And think what Congress people do. They don't really expect things to get done on a day-to-day basis. They have their meetings, and they try to work for years to craft some sort of legislation. That's usually just like some milquetoast legislation at that, and they do a lot of socializing. But now she moved back. After 20 years, she came back to become mayor, which is a totally different job. You're not schmoozing. What you need to do is, people don't care about, they don't want to actually, like, she's always giving these speeches like she wants to sort of, I don't know, inspire people. No one wants to be inspired by a mayor. They want you to roll up your sleeves and fill the fucking potholes. Mm-hmm. And make sure that the lights work. Mm-hmm. And make sure that the streets are clean. Mm-hmm. That's what they want of the mayor. Mm-hmm. And that's what she is incapable of doing because, for one, like you said, where'd she come from? Does she seem like she understands LA?
No.
LA, you have to know, each area is completely different. The culture here in our neighborhood is different than Thai Town, is different than Little Armenia,
Echo Park, Silver Lake.
Everywhere, all throughout the city, Venice, Palm, San Pedro, the Valley. She doesn't understand any of this. And when she did come home, she represented in her congressional district. She would win like 90% of the vote, 95% of the vote. So she didn't have any challengers, and everybody would just come up there and say, oh, it's so great to see you. She never got any pushback until she became mayor. Now when I see her, if I find out where she's at a parade, she's making a public event, I will be there and I confront her and we take her on. My latest one.
You come at her at a parade.
Yeah, at the Pride Parade.
You gotta be careful, bro.
No, I caught her at the Pride. Her and Heidi Feldstein. I called her out on her inside safe scam.
What'd you say?
I roasted her.
So you were filming him at the parade.
I roasted her the whole parade. We took a walk.
What was
she was in the parade. I walked along with her in the car and roasted her. I did the same thing to Eric Garcetti, because Eric Garcetti, he just disappeared for like 2 years, and you're gonna come back for a parade. So I went and walked.
They sent him somewhere.
In some ways it was good just to send him somewhere. I wish somebody would send Karen Bass somewhere, or maybe she'd go back to Ghana like she was when the fires started.
Wait, what about Villagrosa? Wasn't he our mayor?
He was a while ago.
Was he? I
think he's running for governor.
Wasn't he good?
It's hard for me to say. I wasn't so engaged in politics back then.
Dude, so wait, you follow her in her car, but her window's not down.
No, when she's in a parade, they have it in the convertible, and so she'll be sitting on the back.
And she hears you.
The whole way.
She doesn't acknowledge you.
Oh, she has no choice but to. I have a loud mouth.
I know.
You can hear me, and you go down Hollywood Boulevard, it echoes between the buildings. No,
What was she behind? The ball sack float?
I don't even know. She was when I first got over there, she was staging. They were just getting into the car, and so I spent about a good 10 minutes just going off on her.
What's she doing at Pride? She needs to fix the potholes.
Listen, she needs to fix a lot of things.
Bro, so you're coming at her.
Yeah.
Gosh, man, and they know it's you.
They know it's me.
Do you remember Guardian Angels?
Yes.
Are you part of them?
No, I just do my own thing.
I feel like they're coming. I feel like you're the new incarnation of that.
My whole thing is, like, I don't like being associated with any group.
No, I know.
Because I don't want to be associated with their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like doing my own thing. I don't like being held back by people. I don't think people's ideas are always the greatest. But my thing is, if you like what I do, then replicate it or actually perfect it. Do it your own way. But my thing is, we can't keep on sitting back and be like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. There's no way of changing this. What can I do? I've gone out here and I have put a hurting on the Church of Scientology.
When did your beef start with them? When?
In April.
Pull that a little closer.
In April 2023.
Pull it down a little bit. What happened?
I was filming a police incident on Ivar, north of Hollywood Boulevard, at like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night on Side Street.
Mm-hmm. So you would consider yourself a citizen journalist?
I do a lot of journalism.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. The LA Times often takes my work and tries to credit themselves. In a lot of ways, I feel like I'm one of the best journalists in all of LA.
No, you're on the street. You're right in it. That's why
I have good sources.
Mm-hmm.
I think people like to give tips. When they do give tips, it's important to them. This information, they're putting their neck on the line possibly, but they want to see something done, and they give it to a lot of reporters and they just sit on it because they're just lazy. Where if you give me a tip that's solid, I am going to do my best with everything I've got to make something happen in a righteous way. So I was on the police stop, filming a police stop, and it was kind of a big incident, and Scientology security guards there, Office of Special Affairs, which is like their CIA guys in Scientology, came downstairs and was telling me I had to move. I couldn't be on the sidewalk. And don't tell me that I can't be on the sidewalk. Who are you? You don't own the sidewalk.
Scientology person said this.
Scientology people telling me I had to get off the sidewalk.
Okay, so that didn't sit well.
Listen, that's not going to work well with me. And then they tried to plead to the cops, but the cops all know me. They don't want the smoke. And so I think they were surprised that the cops weren't reacting because they're used to the cops coming to their defense.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't happen. And they kept on trying to bump into me to like give a fake assault type of deal. And it was
who, cops or Scientologists?
Scientologists.
Okay.
They kept on trying to bump into me, and then we were arguing, and finally one of the Scientologists said, "Suck my cock."
To you?
To me.
That's not very Scientologist.
Listen, it would be one thing if he said suck his dick, but the cock is so vulgar, right?
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, I'm going to end your religion now.
And so since then, you've been on a quest.
Since then, I mean, it's been an easy fight.
Since they told you to suck their cock.
When that happened, I said, okay, listen, I started doing the math in my head. I'm like, what would it take for me to end this organization? I said, I'm going to have to create a TikTok account and have some stuff go viral, have confrontations. I'm going to try to get, those First Amendment auditors that are really annoying, that go in front of post offices and irritate people. Let's put that work to good. Why don't you go do that in Church of Scientology? Everybody will be on your side. Go stand in front of the Church of Scientology place and just kind of warn people that are going in there with their deceptive tactics about what's going on. So I built it up. It sort of went viral. Now, during the summer that year, I had too much work to do. I was traveling to New York and stuff. So I said, when I get back in September, I'm going to go hardcore after them. And I started going hardcore. And before long, October hit, and I had like 20 people out there with me. And by December, they had their Christmas function, which is funny because they don't celebrate Christmas. They use it as a recruiting tool. By that day, we were having 50 people, 75 people, protesters out there. Got to the point where it'd be 100 people. And finally, the Church of Scientology. This is the main recruiting place on Hollywood Boulevard. This is a building that probably brings in 70% of their revenue in all of LA. It's deeply important to them. And they shut down for a year. Closed the doors.
What?
Pulled the shades down. Abandoned the street. You know Hollywood Boulevard. If you go walking over there, you know those recruiters?
Yes.
They call them body routers. They're always out there. For a year, they abandoned the streets.
That building, it says Scientology on it, the really nice old... They didn't vacate the building.
No, they didn't vacate the building.
They just closed.
They closed. They stopped all recruiting there. And that's a major recruiting hub, right? Because the Church of Scientology, if you're at a location where people are going to work and stuff, they don't have time to listen to you. But that location, people are on vacation. They have free time, disposable income.
It's also a lot of lost souls get off the bus.
Exactly, and they take advantage of that. They go after hurt people. And so for the last year, they shut down. Now, because they're hurting. The Church of Scientology overall is hurting. They're getting smaller. They used to have 70,000, 80,000 members. This is down to about 20,000 members now.
Is that true?
Yes.
I feel they own the most prime real estate in all of LA.
They absolutely do. And that's the thing, right? If you're to get tax exempt status, you can't just bank that cash. You can't bank that revenue. You can't bank donations. You can't just keep it in the bank. You have to put it to use. And their way as a religious organization of putting it to use is buying properties. So they buy all these prime properties. And honestly, I take offense to it. That recruiting place on Hollywood Boulevard.
Unbelievable.
That's the first hotel in Hollywood.
Really?
Yes, that's a historic landmark.
Wow.
And it's not just that. Then they own the Celebrity Center up on Franklin.
Insane.
A beautiful building.
That looked like Earl Flynn's house or something.
And it's empty, mostly.
It is?
Yes. Listen, they bought that property because they wanted to have a place that stars could come hang out and would make Scientology cool and make it so, I want to become a Scientologist because I want to hang out with Tom Cruise and John Travolta and them. This is going to be awesome. But no celebrity wants anything to do with Scientology now. It's toxic. And so because of that, that building is essentially empty, like most of their buildings. What
about the big blue one off of Fountain?
Oh, listen, that place it's creepy, right?
It's creepy, bro.
So that's where...
And they have another one out by Oxnard.
They do. That's the Hemet base.
Their beautiful beach one. It's wild.
Well, the one over here, the blue building, if you ever go by there, notice that every window is closed and blocked up. You can't see it. Because you know who's in there? You have 4 to 6 people living in each room in bunk beds. Now remember, this is an old hospital. So think of a hospital room. Now imagine a hospital room with 4 to 6 people in bunk beds. That's life for them. They don't have cell phones. They don't have access to the internet. They don't have access to their families. The only thing they'll be able to get at best is email their families, which is all screened. They work 110 hours per week. So essentially, they leave for work at 7:30 in the morning. They get back at 10:30 at night. They go to sleep. They wake up. They do it again. They do that 7 days a week, 110 hours per week.
How long do they have to do that for?
For 1 billion years. They sign a 1 billion-year contract. They sign a 1 billion-year contract.
How is that legal?
Listen, Bill Clinton gave them tax-exempt status. And once you get that tax-exempt status as being recognized as a religion, investigative services and police departments are unwilling to go after you.
Dude. But
and here's another thing. Those people on Hollywood Boulevard who are doing the recruiting, most of them are from overseas. They bring them here on religious visas, and then they take their visa away. So now they're stuck. They are stuck. What does that sound like?
Sounds like trafficking.
Yes, it sounds like human trafficking.
Yeah, sounds like trafficking.
And we think about human trafficking as happening in other countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's happening on Hollywood Boulevard.
I know.
In our neighborhood.
Bro, it really does.
You wonder why I'm mad, why I'm out there. This is happening in our neighborhood. A block or 2 blocks away, you have Hollywood High School. And those kids are walking by after school, and they're trying to recruit them in there too. And they're going to be separated from their families, and they're going to become indentured servants. That's what it is. That's what's happening there. The people that work there, see, above that in that hotel, people live there. People that live above that work at their communications building, like right at the junction of Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard over there by the McDonald's. Right over there, that's their building. So the people that work there at the bottom can't sleep upstairs because that would break trafficking laws. You can't live where you work. They get paid $0. They're given a $47 a week allowance. See, to get around labor standards where they'd be required to pay minimum wage, they call themselves religious volunteers. And so they give them an allowance. That allowance, the $47 they get per week, they still have to buy their own toiletries. And if their uniform gets ripped or their shoes get old, they have to buy their own. That's life in the Church of Scientology as a Sea Org member.
They'd have to run away to escape, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, they can walk out. But you have to understand.
You have a billion-year contract. You can't.
Yeah, it's a billion-year contract. Well, listen, there is actually a binding contract where if you actually leave, any of their coursework that they've taught you, they bill you for. So you do owe them money. But what's funny is they make you take out like credit cards as soon as you get in there, and they take those credit cards from you and cash it all out because that's what they need for operating capital. And this is the thing, right? Imagine you have this. It's a multi-level marketing scheme, right? Now imagine you had a company where you have free labor, working 110 hours a week, and you're tax exempt, you're paying no taxes. How can you not make that work? They can't because they're getting smaller. They're shrinking. They're hurting for operating capital. They have these properties. They don't have cash.
Are they going to sell one?
That's a key thing. I want to put enough pressure on them where their operating capital gets so low, they have to start selling these properties. Or we want to end them once and for all. We remove their tax exempt status. Immediately, they have to pay 40% taxes. So much will be liquidated. And my thing is, what would it take? It would take the IRS removing it.
Wait, they also have a white building on Sunset that talks about
psychiatry.
Yes, that's them too.
Yeah, so they're anti-psychiatry. They want to ban psychiatry, and they want to ban all psychotropic drugs. And here's the thing. Listen, I have some sympathy to some of this because psychiatry went too far. You look at they were doing lobotomies and stuff. Like, what the fuck is this? And coming out of that, it's fair to say, I
can't argue with them
to be super skeptical. But I think what they've done, their thing is anybody who's going through a crisis, they need vitamins. They just need large doses of vitamins.
And a credit card.
And a credit card.
But wait, see, dude. So you're saying 7%. So you're saying they've dropped over 60%?
Yeah, listen,
not since your fight.
No, not since my fight. No, this is over the course of the last decade.
Because of a lot of stuff.
This has become a number of things. I think it started off with like Leah Remini's documentary, Going Clear. And I'll be honest with you, South Park
has done a number on them.
It's effective because they were literally taking their exact teachings and just putting in a cartoon. You look at it like, wow, this is fucking nuts.
You go, oh, this is just a joke, but it's not.
It's not. It's their literal teaching. L. Ron Hubbard is the
Park.
science fiction writer. Not a good one. Not a good one.
Yeah, so wait. So he gets all these... Dude, this is so crazy because I'm thinking about Hollywood Boulevard and I'm thinking about the Guinness Museum. I'm thinking of McDonald's and then...
They own the Ivar building. On the other end... On the corner of Ivar, and across the street from there, they have this Scholastics Learning Center. It's where they supposedly tutor kids, but it's to bring kids in there to recruit them into
You're literally making me want to move to Hollywood Boulevard because it's like it needs to be taken over. People leave LA. I'm like, no, we need to save LA, dude. But I think about how vulnerable people are. Fuck, I'm vulnerable when I walk down Hollywood Boulevard, but it's my home.
I got to tell you,
people who don't know it are like.
Listen, here's the thing I'll say. They have a great group out there on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's I forget what they're called. They're like the Hollywood safety teams.
Who?
They're
The cops?
No, they're not cops.
The Scientologists?
No.
You haven't named one helper yet.
These guys are the security guards that are out there on Hollywood Boulevard now at night.
Who pays?
The people on the bid.
Who?
The businesses on Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay,
so what they do is they flood the area with these people who are they're kind of like the ones that wear the blue uniforms over here on La Brea and Santa Monica on the bikes and stuff. But the thing is, they flood it, and they're high profile. You ever go to a 7-Eleven and you see at the front window there's a picture of a cop on the window? Mm-hmm. They do that just to deter people. Mm-hmm. You have the same effect going on up there. These guys who are, they're more like security guards than anything. But they're high profile, and unlike the cops, they get involved with things quickly. Like, I've seen them save people's lives. I've seen them stop a guy from unaliving himself. Stepped in. You know why? Because they walk the street all night long. They know all the personalities out there. They know how to talk to them, and it can calm people down. Whereas if a cop just comes there, when they do come, they come with 12 of them, and it's just like guns pulled, and it's a lot of ways. There's other things they could be doing. There's so many drunk drivers around here. Go get they're drunk drivers. How many cars I've seen flipped on Sunset from drunk drivers? Focus on those. Let these guys deal with those personalities, because there's not anything they can do anyway. And at the end of the day, when you're dealing with mental health issues, there's not a policing fix for that. These people need a doctor and medication.
Bro, wait, let's go back to Scientology.
Yeah, they need it too.
How? So it's declining because of awareness.
Because of awareness. Listen,
if you could I hate this is dangerous to talk about, but
okay, no. Let me tell you what. Listen, let's talk about Xenu.
Who's that?
Xenu from the Galactic Confederacy. So this is what their religion is based upon.
What?
So 75 million years ago, there was overcrowding in another galaxy.
What?
Yes. So they took 1 billion people and froze them, popsicle people. And they put them on DC-8 aircraft. That's what he said. DC-8 aircraft. This is 75 million years ago. Flew them to Earth, dropped the popsicle people on a volcano in Hawaii, then dropped the hydrogen bomb on the volcano. Then their spirits rose up. And Xenu and them from the Galactic Confederacy captured those spirits. They brainwashed those spirits and flung them out, and they're attached to you. They're attached to me. They're attached to all of us on Earth, and they cause all the bad things in our life, all our insecurities, but they are going to help you get rid of those alien spirits, but it's going to cost you $300,000-$400,000.
That's the origin story?
That's the origin story.
Of Scientology.
That's the origin story.
And it's supposed to be fact?
Yes.
Or it's based off a guy who was a science fiction writer?
No, that's written in their Operating Thetan 3.
Their Bible.
Their Bible. It's in OT3 level. So you have to learn probably pay about $75,000 for that level. It goes up to OT8. This is their Bible.
And Tom Cruise believes that.
Yes, he's paid for all this. I encourage everybody. See, WikiLeaks got their hands on their entire Bible. And it's, like I said, it's different levels. They call it going up the chain. You start it clear, and they go OT1, OT2, up to OT8. And each level costs you more and more money. OT8 might cost you like $500,000 or $1 million. Tom Cruise has paid for all this. If you go WikiLeaks, go search it. Type in, OT levels, Scientology WikiLeaks, or Operating Thetans WikiLeaks. You can go and look at it for yourself. You know where you see stuff like that? It's just a lot of scribble. There's a lot of rhymes. I will do, I will not do, I could do, I couldn't do, I shall do, I shall. That's what it talks about. And it talks about explosion, saying over and over again. It's crazy. I see this stuff written on the sidewalks in Hollywood. Just some guy with a magic marker or crayons. This is nuts. But this is what they believe.
Well, if you want to get me involved, I'll tell you what I think.
What do you think?
Well, really, they said L. Ron was friendly, I want to say, with someone with Aleister Crowley.
Yes.
And if you really look at it,
you got it.
It's Satan ties.
You got it.
But that's all mumbo jumbo over there. But the Satan shit is real.
Yeah. You get it. You understand.
And so that's where those are. And if you believe in, listen, there's a lot of stuff I believe. Like, I actually believe the prison planet theory, but that's a whole other thing.
I don't even know what that is, but we'll get into
it.
I'll go into the rabbit hole when I go home on that one.
Well, basically, because I do believe that our planet could be operated by other entities.
Okay.
And that we're kind of like being puppeteered.
Okay.
Possibly. It's a possibility.
Hey, listen, sounds like, is it any more absurd than, say, Christianity?
Yeah, or whatever. I mean, I want to believe
I'm in trouble.
I want to believe there's God and good God.
Okay, good.
But the thing with the Scientology is that, yes, that you can just trace it back to Satanism and what it is. And it's just wild because they do these practices that I wouldn't even have talked about this years ago. But like legitimate people, I mean, dude, now you got me so twisted because, icons of our business are completely engulfed in it.
Yeah, listen, and they're highly destructive. Again, if I go to a church, right, and I walk in there, I say, "What are you guys about?" They're going to tell me what they're about. They're going to start talking about some of the fundamentals. They might even give me a Bible if I ask for it, if I go to a temple or elsewhere. But if I go to a Church of Scientology, what I just told you about, their Bible, they're not going to tell you about it. In fact, the people who work at the test center, at the recruiting center, they don't even know about it. They're so low in the levels, they don't know what's... So when I talk about Xenu, they're looking at me like I'm crazy.
How did you learn that? WikiLeaks?
Yeah, WikiLeaks. Listen, South Park talked about it. It's just like a very common thing, the Xenu story.
Okay.
And they use a deception. So instead of talking about that, they say, hey, do you want to take a personality test? You want to take a stress test? You want to take an IQ test? You want to come see a movie, a free movie? Everybody loves free shit. On Hollywood Boulevard, they're free time, they're on vacation, and you say, hey, you want a free movie? You're like, hell yeah, free. Everybody loves free shit. If you go to Costco and they're giving out free samples, people will jump over their grandmothers, trample them to get that free sample. So when you say, yeah, free, let me go in here, and the building's all lit up and stuff, and they have the technology in the window, all their stuff, and they have their e-meters, and they're like, yeah, let me check it out. But that personality test is 200 questions, and there's some absurd questions. But they do that, well, no matter what, when you're done taking that test, your life is fucked up, you need their help. That's the final score, no matter what.
No matter how good you are.
No matter what.
Your life, it's so true.
Your life is fucked up. You need the help. And they look at the questions they ask, and they use those questions to use for different approaches at making the sale. They are fantastic salespeople. Their systems are fantastic. And so they use that information. They say it's the Oxford capacity test. Makes it sound like it's involved with, associated with Oxford University. But it's not. They say sometimes that it is, but it's not. It's a lie. And yeah, it's just part of their sales technique. My thing is, why are we doing a religion that requires manipulating people, lying to people so they can get money off of them or recruit them is... I have a problem with that.
Dude, you got my brain going because I know a lot of people, at least 5 I can think of off the top of my head, and you know who they are too, who are very good people that are Scientologists. Now, I don't know how deep they are in it.
They may not know
They're
about
good
the black
people.
They may not know about the black operations. Right, so they're black. Like, okay, so the whole thing, like, oh,
and they are level-headed. I never see them get mad. So I do.
That's the key, though.
But
that they're trained in that.
Well, I do say that the people that I know that are Scientologists, I don't know if they still are. They're level-headed. They keep their emotions in check. They're very successful, but they're very good at what they do, and they've always been cool to me. So I've never had a beef with Scientology, but I also know there's a lot of weirdness.
They're also riding the backs of slave labor too.
That which is terrible.
Right? They try to separate themselves from that.
Exactly.
And that's, to me,
terrible.
Right.
And it's also like they're engrossed in Hollywood, so it's how much do I want to shit on Hollywood, which at this point is getting dirtier every second.
How engrossed are they? Are they really entrenched?
There's a lot of people, bro, that are they were.
I think I think
people
now,
are jumping ship.
I think now being associated with Church of
Scientology did a lot of good.
I think it'll hurt your career, not help your career.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. But the fact that Tom Cruise, I'm going to edit this, I don't know how the fuck he's still out there believing in Timu.
Yeah, but listen, right?
I mean, I do believe in weird shit too, but
listen,
the hydrogen bomb at the volcano is just a lot of detail.
What has his career been like lately, though?
$1 billion for the last movie. He's always going to be Tom Cruise.
He is. But how much of a
he ain't running down Hollywood Boulevard and 7-Eleven on a scooter.
No, he's not.
You and me.
We can't do that. I can't do it on a scooter because you can't take it on Hollywood Boulevard.
I know. It's the fucking red zone. Why'd they do that?
The red zone's driving me crazy.
Why'd they fucking do that?
They were down.
I just discovered that.
They took him down for like 3 days.
Bro.
And no, it's
that's why I got my own scooter.
Yeah.
Fuck down.
But I think it's important to
right
talk
by
about
that hostel is where it starts.
Tom Cruise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Made a lot of money, but how much of attention is he? As this icon? Did the young kids even know who he is? You know, let's be honest.
Come on, bro. You can't. It's TC, bro.
He's joked about now.
That's TC, bro.
He's joked about it. They think about him jumping on it.
Bro.
He jumps on top of a couch and all of that. Ever since
I won't. I don't care how much pamphlets he's Listen.
Okay.
I don't care how many pamphlets. He's an icon. He'll always be an icon. And
to you,
well,
this younger generation has no idea who he is.
You're not wrong. Here's what I want to say. The last Top Gun made over $1 billion.
Yes.
Okay. So he's the last of a dying breed of movie stars. Yes, you are correct. Social media stars are more relevant than ever and are phasing out a lot of Hollywood people. Hollywood doesn't want to accept that. They're behind the curve. I agree with you, but still, no matter what, he is
Tom Cruise. Yes, listen, Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise,
and I've never heard a bad word about him.
Tom Cruise is also best friends with the leader of Church of Scientology, a deeply abusive person. And again, he's riding off the back of these Sea Org members who are working.
And how is he still? Because he's making so much money.
Yeah, he gives them all the money, and he's a star there.
And no one says anything. How does this town not say anything?
I'm going to tell you this. This is the most important part, right?
Career done.
Their religion is also based upon what we'll call auditing. That's where they hook you up to the e-meters, right? The soup cans, which is basically a lie detector test, and ask you every question about your life, your deepest, darkest secrets, and they're recording it, video and audio. So they're asking everything. What do you think about your mother? What do you think about your brother? What do you think about your sister? How did you feel when this happened? Did you ever do something this way? Have you ever had dirty sex? Have you ever, whatever it is. They're going to get all that information. It's all recorded and kept in the archive. And so guys like Tom Cruise, what would happen if he were to leave? And what happens to all these people if they try to leave? They come and say, well, we got this information. It'd be a shame if your mother heard about what you really think about her or what you did that night. It'd be a shame if your family or your job or your neighbors were to find out all these things about you. See, listen, I know about this. They've come after me so hard over the last year. They've done everything possible. They've doxed me. They've sent me to court. They're dirty like that. And I don't know if me being a critic of any other church would get that sort of treatment.
Okay, now that you got me thinking about this, what's the deal with Mosaic?
That church thing? Listen, I don't know anything about it, but it's like people are just so listen, I don't know.
First of all, it's a beautiful piece. We got to keep in mind.
It is beautiful.
It's a beautiful piece of real estate.
And on top of it, when they put up their Christmas tree with the wood, I think that's really cool artwork.
It's beautiful. I heard you go in at noon on a Sunday, you get a free coffee and a muffin, and that's how they get you. Now, I haven't heard anything weird, but I'm just saying, they got a big-ass piece of property. I don't know what the fuck they do.
All I know is those people are so nice that it creeps me out. You know when they get too nice?
Right.
It's like, oh, I don't know, man. Nothing's fucked up in your life.
And they're right across from the SAG building, so I'm like...
Yeah, no, I know. I have those same feelings.
I'm wondering, because it's like... Dude,
but I know the crowds there are smaller, though. They used to be really big a couple years ago, and they've gotten a lot smaller. So I don't know. I do look forward to their Christmas tree thing.
You do.
But I'm happy you recognize it. It's like
yeah.
It's like, man, what the hell is wrong?
Crosswords. Okay, so what's going to happen in the neighborhood for a second? Because I'm at a crossroads in my life, and I'm thinking about, like, I love it. And literally, bro, like, my man who's producing this is, like, follows you and educated you so much on you, and he loves what you're doing, and like you're fascinating, and I really do want to stay in Hollywood because I do feel like Hollywood needs a voice, and it's easy to pod here. So I'm looking at places, but like Crossroads of the World is for sale.
They were supposed to, so they had a development plan for that.
4 buildings on Hollywood Boulevard are for sale. Now they're kind of expensive; they're $5 million and up. But my question is, what's going to happen to this whole area?
So again, they're going to do that major development
where
Hard House was.
Who?
From Sunset on Highland, all the way down to Leland Way.
To who? For who?
They're building an apartment complex and storefronts.
Okay. So there's a building on McCadden that's still up for sale. That was Frank Zappa's old recording studio behind the Chick-fil-A.
So, yeah, and listen, roads of the world.
It's just
they had
iconic,
something planned for that.
Iconic.
They were going to knock down the block all around that and keep that, and they were going to restore it, and they were going to build hotels and housing. So imagine if there was a hotel, like a really chic hotel, next to the crossroads of the world, and you fix it up. You bring it back to its glory. Because I hate to see, there's some things knocked down, get rid of that fucking thing, right? Because it's so ugly. You know, McCadden, that green and white building, McCadden, Leland Way, they take that building down. That thing, destroy that. But Crossroads of the World needs to be brought back to its glory. And I think that if, with the investment that they had planned, are you sure that it's for sale? Because they had a deal where
Maybe
they were going to do a major development from there.
I think you're right.
From the church, essentially from the church down past McCadden, where there used to be like a little coffee shop there in McCadden and Sunset across from the school. They knocked down that whole building. There's a lot there. And that's supposed to be one big development that they're building. So think about how that would change the area.
It's incredible. And like you said, the Thompson, the Dream, all of Cahuenga's gotten gentrified. My question is, will Hollywood come back to what it was in terms of the neighborhood? Because the neighborhood is not glorious.
Again, I think that, listen, it depends on this neighborhood. If you go to other parts of the neighborhood, again, if you were over there by, say, Selma and Cahuenga or any of those areas, by the police station, or even north up to Yucca, you've seen those areas change. If you went up to Wilcox and Yucca, that was gang territory a decade and a half ago. And now they're, nice apartments or nicer apartments. That whole area is changed and doing all the development in the back streets. My thing is Hollywood's going to change for the better, but we used to have a lot of homeless on Hollywood and, say, Vine to Sunset, behind
800 degrees around there.
All of that. There was lots of homeless, but they had the developments and they pushed them out and they keep on pushing them. So a lot of the homeless and drug problems being pushed directly to our neighborhood, so we're facing those now. But there's so much development, eventually I think that that element sort of going to just not be in the neighborhood much at all. I think we're some time away, but I think we'll get there. I worry about Karen Bass defunding all these city programs. I do worry about that. I think that we're going to face a time where we're going to have a lot of disrepair throughout the city coming up because of her $1 billion deficit.
It is, but I do see, look, I mean, the New World Order is a real thing. They do want us all in they're making this place like China, meaning they want super high-tech buildings. They want us all in little spots. They don't want us owning land.
Why are 600-foot apartments become normalized for like $4,000? Like, what are we doing here?
100%. I mean, but this complex is awesome. It's not that crazy expensive, but it's expensive. But I mean, there's an amazing yoga studio here. There's a little supermarket. Yeah. That's what they're doing. They're trying to make everything local. That's a whole other conspiracy. But so
see, I don't mind it. I'm from New York, so I'm used to everything being local. I like the idea of
but guess what?
I never drive because I'm always worried about what are the Scientologists are going to do to my car and stuff. So I want to be able to get to the store quickly. So I do like that. But go on.
But you're a New Yorker.
I am a New Yorker.
And so you can live in a building your whole life. And I'm not mad at that life. But I will say they know you now. They're going to be, because you're on the grid, they're going to go, oh, what's William doing? Like, they can track you. So when you pull some shit, which is not shit, you're just doing what you're doing, being an activist, they know everything about you. So if you had a little spot in the valley and then you came in town to do it, it would be harder to track you.
I do that.
Okay, there you go. There you go. That's why it explains all the phones. Yeah. I mean, I just think that, so wait, what do you think about Homeboy, our governor?
Oh, man, listen, first things first, I can't get past this. It's like he seems like a used car salesman from the beginning.
Yeah.
And if they ask you where'd the money go for the homelessness, and it's just like, oh, well, billions just disappeared.
$24 billion.
It doesn't just go missing. That's a crime. That went into people's pockets. Like when waste is somebody's profit. People were paid, and I'm sure he's going to walk into a nest egg when he leaves, whenever. But listen, I think he's done a terrible job. I think he's an absolute phony. I think that he'll just say whatever it takes. I think he's that type of leadership is what has gotten us into this mess. Again, we're seeing it. The leadership we're seeing from him is the same thing we're seeing from Karen Bass, the same thing we're seeing from a lot of the members of city council, including our council member right here in this district, who is, listen, it's his fault that things are so dirty. His priorities
Who's
are different.
that?
Hugo Soto Martinez. He came in as a labor guy from Unite Here 11. He represented tourism workers and hotel workers and LAX workers and stuff. So it's funny about him. He has a new law, or trying to pass a law where they raise the minimum wage for tourism workers to $30 an hour.
What is a tourism worker?
Well, that's the thing. Here's what a tourism worker is. Defined as somebody who works at a large hotel or some people that work at LAX. Now, let me ask you something. If I go up on Hollywood Boulevard, I go to Madame Tussauds, if I go to, Dolby Theater, if I go to, if I go to the Pantages, if I go to anything up, if I go to Foot Locker, if I go to Coffee Bean, if I go to
Can't even sit at that
La La Land, are those tourism workers?
Coffee Bean, no, it's our local coffee shop.
That Coffee Bean is dealing with tourism nonstop. That's all
yes, but and tourists it's hard even to go in there because someone's always taking a shit in front of it. It's sad, bro. It's sad.
But okay, so and that's what they have to deal with, and that's what those workers on Hollywood Boulevard have to deal with.
So is it?
Think of the crazy people they're having to deal with, that they're being assaulted and stuff. So those tourism workers, they don't count as tourism workers to Hugo. The only people who would get this minimum wage hike would be the Roosevelt Hotel workers and the W Hotel on Hollywood Boulevard. No other worker out there. So my thing is, listen, I don't know what the minimum wage should be. I have a problem when people are treated differently. It needs to be one rule across the board. You're going to try to tell me that somebody working as a bellhop at a Hotel Roosevelt Hotel, has to deal with more bullshit than the guy who's working at 7-Eleven on Sunset and Brea. Or no, about the 7-Eleven over here on Santa Monica. Think what the bullshit that they have to deal with.
It closes, bro.
It has to.
10:30, which is bullshit.
At 10:30 now?
10:30.
It used to be 2 o'clock, but there's so much stuff.
Because there's so much crime.
Right.
Listen, my question is, when you see the Oscars, how much hypocritical shit do you think? Because it's literally in the hood, and it's about Hollywood, which we live in.
And not a single one of them are going to live over here.
Ever.
So that's the thing.
I just get mad. For some reason, and I should have her on the pod if she'll do it, Gwyneth Paltrow. I just get annoyed because I feel that she's Hollywood royalty, but she'll never scoot down Hollywood Boulevard.
No, listen.
Never.
It's funny because the tourists will come up to me at Hollywood and Highland. They'll be like, where are the stars at? Where's Brad Pitt and that?
Brentwood.
No.
Oh, those feelers.
No. I say they're on. It's at Hollywood and Whitley. You'll find them right there hanging out against the wall. It's usually just a bunch of crazy people. But to think that stars hang around here, the stars do not live in Hollywood. Hollywood is like working class. It's got some grit to it.
Not even homeless class.
I know.
No, but dude, it used to Charlie Chaplin by Mosaic. Yeah. That from Mosaic all the way to Fairfax, that was his estate. Yeah. And they're up above Franklin. That was all Hollywood. Yeah. So it's sad.
Yeah, when they talk about, when somebody asks me where you live, Hollywood, like, oh, you're around all the stars now. Not the stars in my neighborhood are a different type of stars. This is the stars that you see hanging around here. There are no Hollywood stars that I'm going to see walking around, down Fountain Avenue. Or maybe I will.
So do you think that Hollywood will be less and less in terms of the production town because, like you were just saying, how people aren't relevant? But to me, it's always going to be Hollywood no matter what. Even if it's not going on, LA is still LA. It's the best city in the world. But
that's the thing, right? So
it's still the best city in the world.
Listen, thing is, we're so well diversified.
Yeah.
So
we are, by
if
the
an
way.
industry becomes smaller, it's not like we have all our eggs in one basket. It's not like we're in Dayton, Ohio, and the tire factory closes and the whole town is just ruined, right?
Steel mill in Indiana.
Yeah, we don't have to deal with that because we have tourism, we have tech, we have just everything.
And every race, creed, nationality, sexuality.
Yes.
We are the biggest melting pot.
So we may lose some of our Hollywood stuff because technology's changing. You can do post-production somewhere else now. It's just easier. But in December 15th, when it's 75 degrees. You can't just do that everywhere.
No.
You can't beat. This is L.A.
No.
And this is Hollywood.
Yeah.
So listen, you can't kill it off. And I think that it'll actually, over time, it's only going to get better because I think we're doing some building now that will help build some infrastructure. And then it'll kind of take it from there. Hollywood needs to be more of a city. We need some investment on Hollywood Boulevard. Knock down half of that shit.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. What's going to happen? Get rid of the piss smell.
Get rid of. Before COVID, that was all going to be redeveloped, and things pulled back after COVID. I think we'll get back there. What I don't want to have happen is there's talk that they want to turn it into like a 3rd Street promenade, shut down the street with cars. I need to see the low riders come and do the takeovers and stuff because I love the low riders. You'll have like 30 of them. You ever look inside of there?
It's amazing.
There's inside the car, you're gonna see a husband, wife, and kids. It's a family thing.
Yeah.
You can't. That's the culture. You can't take that away from Hollywood Boulevard. You can't take away we need the crazy.
But 3rd Street is now almost shut down. So
storefronts like that aren't going to work these days, though. People buy their shit online.
Yeah. Yesterday you were at a city council meeting. What were you protesting? You went to 2.
Yeah, no, I went to the LAPD commission meeting at first. What was I talking about there? I was talking about the police union's ties.
Vegans.
Huh?
Vegans.
What's wrong with vegans?
Annoying.
I'm a vegan.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm a vegan.
Wait a minute. Hold on, bro. Is that leather?
No, it's not.
Is that leather?
No, it's not.
Bruh.
Here's what I will say.
Bruh.
I'm a different type of vegan too.
You're a vegan?
I'm a vegan. I don't lecture anybody about their vegan.
When's the last time you ate meat?
About 10 years ago.
All right, but you used to fuck a hamburger up.
I used to love cheeseburgers.
Dude, Chris and Eddie's, locals.
But there are some decent vegan hamburgers that you would be surprised.
Listen, I'm just fucking with vegans. But vegans do get annoying. But
vegans are irritating.
I can't believe you're a vegan.
I don't lecture anybody about their choices and tell them
a vegan activist who will fuck you up.
Listen, you're one of the few people that know I'm vegan. I'm the type of vegan that I don't tell everybody I'm vegan.
Well, now 200 people are gonna know.
Probably more.
Bro, there's leather on that though. There's leather.
There is not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's true. River Phoenix, God rest his soul,
I will also say
never wore leather. That's what I learned. Real vegan.
But these aren't leather. These are Nikes. Okay. Canvas.
All right, go ahead. So you were protesting what at City? Is it City Hall?
At the LAPD commission meeting. So I was confronting on behalf of a lot of cops who are unhappy with the way the police chief is going about his business. They came to me and said they're about to have a vote of no confidence among his command staff because he is completely capitulated to the police union. Command staff understands that the LAPD has a bad reputation. The only way to fix that is to get rid of the bad cops and let the good ones shine. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just not the way it is. So they're very frustrated with him, the police chief, unwilling to hold cops accountable. The police union has now embedded himself within the police chief's office. They're in there every day, telling him to overturn complaints left and right, any sort of discipline. And on top of that, they're gloating, the police union is gloating that they are going to have the command staff, all those cops, command staff, removed and put their own people in place. And so I went there to confront him about that. Listen, I also got a story. I got a source who said that 2 cops got caught having sex on duty doing MTA overtime. Mm-hmm. So I went there to talk about that, but I also want to make sure that, not that they're held accountable, but...
Cop on cop.
Listen, cop on cop, they're getting paid overtime for that. I don't think they should get paid for that hour.
Well, was it Billy Club on Billy Club? Or was it a man and woman?
Listen, okay, so here's the thing, right? I don't know. So it could be a man on woman.
Yeah.
It could be man on man.
Consensual.
Could be woman on woman.
Yeah.
Or, she could be strapping it on and pegging him.
Damn.
There are options there.
Well, here's what I want to say. We need cops. I never, when a cop pulls me over, I never say shit. I put my hands on the wheel and I kiss a cop's ass because, but are you black?
I'm black.
So you have your own.
It's a little different.
Yeah, you have your own history.
Here's what I will say. My first 1,000 police stops I filmed on Hollywood Boulevard.
1,000?
I filmed 3,000. I've documented 3,000 police stops.
Not of your own.
What do you mean? No.
But yeah.
Oh,
so
documenting people getting pulled over. The first 1,000
black man ever.
The first 1,000 that I filmed, 995 were black and Latino people.
Yeah, but they don't use turn signals. That's a joke. Listen, no, so 995 were black and Latin.
How many of them were pulled out of the car, handcuffed, and had their car searched?
Ooh. I'm going to say 80%.
100%.
No!
100%. And here's the thing, right? So if a cop pulls you over, they have the right to pull you out of the car. That's the Supreme Court has ruled that. They can pull you out of the car. But to then search you or your property requires meeting a Fourth Amendment threshold. They have to have reasonable
doubt or reasonable cause, probable cause.
Yeah, they have probable cause of a crime having been committed or about to be committed. Probable cause. Not using a turn signal is not probable cause of a crime. It's an infraction, not probable cause of a misdemeanor, not probable cause of a felony. But they were being searched. It's a constitutional violation.
Yeah, but how many of those brothers had dime bags?
Very few. Okay, so let me tell you this.
Go ahead.
The Inspector General did a report where they studied thousands of stops. And what they found...
That's crazy, though.
What they found is that black people and Latino people were more likely to be handcuffed and searched, but white people were more likely to be found with serious contraband and guns.
Hold on a minute. The whites were holding?
Because they get away with it, not being pulled over.
And the blacks and Latins are not.
It's so rare so every police stop that you see of a black guy on Hollywood Boulevard,
the whites are holding.
It's not just that they're going to handcuff you and search you. They're going to search your car. They're going to search under the wheel wells. They're going to open up the hood and search because they're looking for guns. They're assuming guns. You know how many guns I've seen found? Very few. Here's another thing. Two top reasons that people are pulled over in Hollywood or LAPD are for a missing license plate or dark tints. I'll go in front of that police station and I'll document every car that comes out of there. And about 85% of the cars that come out of that police station parking lot, of their own personal cars, have illegal tints and missing plates. So they are pulling people over and sort of terrorizing them for these infractions that they have on their own cars. I have a problem with that.
Wow. You know, it's funny because it's like I've been pulled over, not crazy amount, but I do kiss a cop's ass. And I just think like that. But you know what? I'm not black.
I mean, listen, even kiss your ass. If they're pulling people over and
they recognize me, it's different.
I'm going to tell you, like I said, I have had cops come to me and they are being pulled over and told to get out of the car. They're cops leaving the station, drive 3 blocks after work in their own cars. They leave the police station, get in their cars. They drive north on Wilcox and they're being pulled over at Hollywood Boulevard and ordered out of their cars. By other cops.
Well, listen, I don't know if you're going to be mad at this, but I've done a couple events for the LAPD. So they've been good to me. And I understand we need cops.
Listen, here's what I'll say.
And the crime is down.
Here's what I'll say.
But there are bad cops, but there's also
I don't believe in abolishing the police force. It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, right? Do we want to put rapists in jail? Do we want to put child in jail? Do we want to put murderers in jail? Yes, we do.
Yeah, obviously.
They need to go on timeout at least, right? There's got to be some place that people go. But my point is, we can't just be like, you know what? They need therapy. You know, you kill those people, you rape that person, you murder that child. We're going to give you therapy and we'll fix this. No, bad people need to go. And listen, the recidivism when it comes to things like those crimes. So there needs to be a place to go. But we have politicians, and even unfairly, have given the police too many tasks that they didn't ask for. 70% of the police, I was talking to a cop, right? And I said, what percentage of your calls, this is a sergeant, a supervisor over here at Hollywood, watch commander. I said, what percentage of your calls are for homeless people, for somebody dealing on drugs, or dealing with mental health issues? And they say 70% of our calls.
Yeah.
70%. I said, when you became a cop, did you join up because you wanted to do that? They're like, hell no. I didn't want to do that. And I don't want them to do that either, because there's no fix. If somebody's crazy and then somebody shows up and there's 12 cops, are they going to make them uncrazy? What can they possibly do? There's nothing that can be done. If somebody's walking in the middle of traffic and he just doesn't know where he's at, there's nothing he can do. You need a clinician or somebody.
What's the deal with people being naked?
They strip off their clothes, man.
It's happening more and more, right?
Listen, I think
people are walking around naked.
Well, here's what I'll say. I will say over the last month, there has been a huge increase in the number of people who are like seriously either dealing with mental illness or drugs.
Cuckoo bird.
Like last month, and I don't know what it is. I think it's because they've sort of defunded LAHSA, which is the county's homelessness program, where Karen Bass's best friend was working and self-dealed her husband a $2 million contract, and they hide all the. It's
makes sense.
It's a slush fund.
Yeah.
It's a slush fund, and the county says, "Listen, we're taking our $300 million out." And I think when that happened, some people started hitting the streets that were in certain facilities.
Bro, I've seen a couple naked. Here's the big thing now. Dudes on the sidewalk sleeping, pants pulled down.
Oh, that's a lot. I said, without masturbating. I say that all the time.
Yeah, I try to look away at that.
Yeah, but you see the sheet just jumping up and down. Like,
oh, they put a sheet.
Oh, sometimes.
That's good.
Yes.
It's better than open. But like I'm saying, it's just there's just some extra stuff happening lately. So I was wondering if like that makes a lot of sense.
I think, and maybe there's a new drug that hit the street.
It could be.
No,
because people are loony.
I remember when Trank first hit over here.
What's Trank?
It's a combination of like, I think it's like fentanyl and like a horse tranquilizer. So then when they would OD.
Like fentanyl wasn't enough.
Well, then, yeah, but then when you OD and if you use Narcan on them, it has no effect.
Narcan stops fentanyl?
Yes.
Okay.
And then they get pissed off. Right? You hit somebody with a Narcan up their nose, and they like immediately wake up, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because you just ruined their high.
You fucked their high up.
Yeah, they lost their $10, whatever it is.
Okay.
And stuff. But you know what? At least they're alive. I walk away and stuff. With this Trank
stuff.
So
you hit them with a Narcan?
Yeah. I'll walk around with a backpack, and I keep some Narcan with me.
Bro, you are really...
No, the cops will come to me. You have to understand my relationship with the cops. The cops will come to me, and they'll say, like one time it was right next to the Bank of America on Vine and Sunset. And they said, William, this guy over here is ODing, and nobody in his tent is allowing us in. Can we give you the Narcan? I'm like, yeah, I'll go over there and I'll do it. Right. So when I go after the cops, most of these cops out here have no problem with me.
Okay.
Most of these cops out here respect me.
And they're good cops.
Here's what I'll say. My son got killed 4 years ago. Right.
I'm so sorry.
What I did notice is when he was killed at the police station, even though I was having huge fights with them nonstop, they put the flag at half-mast. That wasn't lost on me. And the Hollywood department was sending me messages on Twitter, individual cops and the department, saying how sorry they were. And so, again, that's my relationship with the cops. Now, listen, if I see a bad cop, I see a cop doing something, I'm going to tear into him. And if I see a cop abusing somebody, talking to somebody, I caught a cop just cursing out this woman. She was in a dress. I'm like, why are you cursing her out like that? And when he saw me, then he stopped. Well, don't change up when I'm around, right? Why are you going to talk to a woman like that? And so every time I see him, I tear into him. Cops who I've seen commit misconduct, I tear into them. It's a reason for it, right? I want to show them what people feel like when they're powerless. Because there's that power dynamic. Cop comes up to you in a car with his belt, and he's like, he wants people to cower, like you do sometimes a little bit. And my whole thing, they take advantage of that. I think they're used to always being a one-way street with that power dynamic. I want to show them that when you disrespect people in that way, what it feels like. And I want to document it, and I want to post it on social media to let people know that, hey, if you commit this misconduct and William catches you, he's going to put your shit all over the internet of you acting like an asshole, and your friends are going to see it, and your family's going to see it. Do you want that out there? Wouldn't you rather, because I will post these too, where I show up at a police stop and some kid and his friends, and they took their mom's car out, they're 16, and they just want to come to Hollywood Boulevard, they don't have a license, and instead of towing the car, they say, hey, William, can you drive their car away? And I will always take them. I carry my license at all times, no matter what, because of that. And I give those cops credit. I file commendations I have filed lots of complaints, but I have probably filed more commendations than anybody in LA. Cops who are dealing with people who are dealing with mental illness or something like that. One time, I saw a lady, she was walking up Hollywood Boulevard wearing panties and a bra and a bicycle helmet. Mm-hmm. Right, something's not right. She walked over to the police line. They had a police incident, and she tried going over the fence, and they just pushed her out. She's walking panties and a bra, and she was not, I think she was on drugs. But she's not homeless. Mm-hmm. She walked down the street. I'm like, she's going to become a victim. 100% she's going to become a victim. Another guy out there is a Hasidic Jewish guy who is always out there with me. He's a big cop lover, but we're friends. He followed her around. He called me up. He says, listen, there are cars trying to pull over and grab her. Can you come over here? And I went over to Sunset, caught her there, and I was just walking behind her just to make sure nobody grabbed her. Cop came down the street, saw her, swerved around, and kept on going. And I was calling the cops trying to get a medical unit out there. Finally, some cops came, and they handled it really well because they detained her waiting for what they call an MEU unit, which they team up a clinician with a cop. The fire department works with them. They try to triage them there and find out what kind of care they can get for her. The way the cop handled it was incredible because there were First Amendment auditors out there just harassing the cops and saying, let her go, and cursing at them and stuff. And they handled it so well, I filed accommodation for them. So those are things that do happen out there. There are not enough of those incidents. But my thing is, I will call out the bad, but I will sit there and say the good. I'm not going to hide that. I think it's important that people see exactly what's going on out here. I also think it's important that people know that when they come to me, I think every in LA, no matter what your ideology is, whether you're a conservative, far right, leftist, moderate, liberal, whatever, I think everybody respects me in a certain way because I know I'll always tell it like it is. And I am always open to changing my mind. I don't, just because I might think this way on an issue doesn't mean my whole way of thinking is like, in the mail, the Democratic Party will send you, this is how to vote all 12 measures and stuff. I would never do something like that, right? I don't want to be in with a group. I want to look at each thing individually and be intellectually honest. And I think that in our community and just in LA, whether it be the politicians, journalists, cop lovers, cops, I think even if they don't like me, they respect me and they know that I'm always intellectually honest.
Well, you're doing God's work, bro.
I'm trying.
I appreciate it, man. You're on the streets. I respect what you're doing, bro. Thank you for coming here.
I appreciate. I'm thankful that you really brought me on here. It's especially when you send me the address. I'm like, man, this is my neighbor. This is gonna be fucking awesome. Like,
I do.
Like sometimes I'll go and have an interview, and it's like, they live in, out in Venice. It's like it's different.
No, this is something happened here because you make me look at the neighborhood different, and you got to come back because there's a lot more to catch up on.
Absolutely.
You want to tell people where they can find you?
You can find me for my Scientology stuff. You could find me on YouTube at Scientology Audit StreetsLA. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at StreetsLA. For my political accountability and police accountability stuff, you find me on Film the Police LA on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, and you can come to my website, which is filmthepolicela.com.
Find him. He is literally doing God's work. He's as brave as anyone I've ever seen. You're the man. God bless you.